As a way to celebrate going into the 5th year of making the show, I could think of no better way to commemorate the journey than to go back and finish what we started with The World's End, Edgar Wright's Cornetto trilogy, a trilogy I completed in reverse order, and I wanted to go back to the classic format for this, just a deep dive on a film I love and adore from end to end. Oh, you're too kind. Thank you. And here's the fun surprise. Edgar Wright graciously offered to answer some questions I had about the film when I reached out to him. I wanted this episode to feel special, to give you all something for sticking with me on this journey for years. Which was as awesome as it sounds, but it also had an effect on me that fundamentally changed what I thought about this film. I had this Anton ego moment where I realized I had a much more cynical read on a film that is ultimately endearing and sweet and kind. This time, somebody changed my perspective on a film. Shaun of the Dead, a movie about growing up and taking responsibility for yourself and your actions. Also zombies. To illustrate, and I'm quoting Edgar here, the good things are worth fighting for. Also, you got Red on ya. Shaun of the Dead was a 2004 film written by Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright and directed by Edgar Wright. It concludes my 3-part video series on the other 2 films in the thematic Blood and Ice Cream trilogy, aka the Cornetto trilogy. Itself a riff on and nod to Krzysztof Kieślowski's 3 Colors trilogy, blue, white, red. Seen here, strawberry, classical, and mint. I adore these films. They're like a warm blanket during a thunderstorm, and in no way planned. Okay, so when I asked about this, how much of this idea existed before making Shaun, to quote Mr. Wright, the ice cream thing only came around because we got free ice cream at the Shaun premiere and thought we could get some more Cornettos. Sweet forkin' heck, I love it more. My favorite decisions in film, or any art really, are the decisions that aren't planned.
Purple Rain. No. Sign of the Times. Definitely not. The Batman soundtrack.
I do it on this show all the time, calling audibles. Having a good idea and then digging a little deeper to find a better idea in the spur of the moment. I love you. I know. Yeah, like that. I think the Cornetto trilogy is my favorite thing, like, in art. It creates meaning out of literally ice cream. It is hashtag my brand. I think that is also not a surprise. It grew up over time with Simon and Edgar and Nick. Cornetto as a hangover cure, you know, the thing that gives you brain freezes. But in Shaun, that's why Ed eats the Cornetto to cure his hangover, a thing Edgar Wright used to do in college for that very reason, which, as a moderately serviceable shock to me, has some actual science behind it. Chocolate ice cream and chocolate milk give some vitamin D, also helpful in absorbing calcium into the body, gives your blood sugar a kick in the petunias, can settle an upset stomach, and helps hydrate you. So hey, we all learned a thing. Chocolate ice cream for hangovers. Or we sort of did, cause Shaun of the Dead is actually strawberry, so technically Hot Fuzz is the best hangover whatever. Actually wait, hold that thought for a second. The Cornetto trilogy was an Audible. Okay, so originally the intent was for this bit to end with, when they had the idea for the Cornetto trilogy, there were 3 flavors. And the punchline I wanted to do was actually, now there's 5, so guess you gotta make a pentology, and one of those flavors was Black Forest, and that sounded like a spy movie. This joke writes itself. The problem is that is sort of a vague whisper of truth depending on territory, country, and time frame. The reality is there's like a billion flavors now. One of them is a taco, and they just call it the Cornetto taco. It's not called the Cornaco. A little disappointed there. It would have been funny. But Cornetto, you really f***ed me on this one, all right? I arrived at Shaun of the Dead a bit late. I think the reason is hysterical, so humor me while I embarrass myself. In the June of 2004, Universal Pictures released the remake of Dawn of the Dead, a relatively small film with a budget of only $24 million. Directed by none other than Zack Snyder. I am often wont to say that the thing generally holding Zack Snyder films back is the writing, so it is no surprise to me that not only did the Dawn remake work for me, it was written by none other than the brilliant James Gunn. I saw this in the theaters, and honestly, there was one shot so brilliant that it sold me on the entire film. This shot, by the way, to be specific. A god's eye view of the breakdown of civilization, itself wholly indifferent to the madness that would unfurl over the next hour and 38 minutes. When Shaun came out 3 months later, 2 weeks apart in the UK by the way, released also by Universal Pictures, also a modestly budgeted zombie film that appeared on the surface to be, well, the trailer used the tagline, "Courage has a new name," and then reveals that puntacular title. I skipped it in the theaters. It wasn't until almost a year later that my friend Josh, pictured here with Kristen Bell on the set of the VMARS movie, Josh bugged me nonstop that I absolutely had to watch this DVD because it was gonna change my explosive pizza flavor blasted life. So first of all, I feel like I owe Josh a burger because of how right on the money that assessment turned out to be. And second of all, actually, damn, I want a burger. Be right back. Hang on.
Okay, so Shaun begins the movie with his girlfriend Liz in a pub they always go to.
Having a conversation about one of Shaun's roommates, Ed, framed literally between them, so the movie establishes its main plot point in the third shot of the film, shots 1 and 2 establishing Shaun and Liz. Also, shot 4 establishes Liz's roommates framed in the same way. Oh hey, Peter Serafinowicz is in this movie.
What's up with your hand, man?
Oh hey, Peter Serafinowicz was in this movie. We see the world slowly go to pot, Shaun gets a bit of red on him, and we must watch Shaun struggle to sort out his life. He isn't respected by those who work for him.
You know, I got things I want to do in my life.
When?
He is introduced as a zombie, someone coasting through life, staying alive. But one could say, hardly living. Adept at screwing up, surely.
Bea, you promised you'd come on a holiday with me.
Well, we went to Greece, didn't we?
We met in Greece.
Everyone in this movie is in their own stages of Arrested Development.
If I don't do something, I'm gonna end up in that pub every night for the rest of my life, like those other sad old fuckers drinking myself to death, wondering what the hell happened.
What do you mean, do something?
Shaun hits rock bottom at the end of Act 1 because he was already most of the way there. It takes a literal apocalypse to spur him into making something out of himself. No one does sad like Simon Pegg does sad.
So random.
And the problem isn't Liz making a me or him kind of argument. She's arguing for balance. Shaun isn't good with balancing his friends and his relationships, and she doesn't want to watch him slowly kill himself. Though in a wonderful twist of irony, that bar that she is afraid he's going to kill himself in is exactly the thing that saves both Shaun and Liz's lives. Take that, Charles Dickens! He needs a plan. He makes a plan.
Right. We take Pete's car, we drive over to Mum's, we go in, we take care of Philip.
I'm so sorry, Philip.
Then we grab Mum, we go over to Liz's place, hole up, have a cup of tea, and wait for all this to blow over.
And so our stunted hero's journey begins. Literally throughout the film, he gets better and better at making plans.
Take car, go to Mum's, kill Phil, sorry, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
Each Cornetto film is about a different stage of life. Oh, and they're all like the cleverest movies of all time. Shaun grows into something that can, I'm sorry for the bluntness of this statement, but someone strong enough to kill his own zombie mom. Something no one else in his life is capable of doing. Also, sweet Christ, Simon Pegg is way more brilliant of an actor than people give him characters for because, like, damn. He goes from stagnant oaf to selfless hero. He never, for one moment, considers his personal safety for the people that he loves.
Well, Big Al also says dogs can't look up.
They can't.
Oh, can't they?
No, they can't. Of course they can.
Are you sure?
Yes, look.
Dogs can look up.
But did you know?
So what's funny about the dogs can't look up thing is that actually wasn't a rumor before this film. But the film, upon achieving success, and by proxy Big Al in the film, created the rumor that dogs can't look up. I just wanted to point that out. Like, people argue about it now that didn't before. People think dogs can't look up because of this movie. Let's talk about Philip. A stepdad that doesn't get along great with Shaun literally uses his Bill Nighy dying breaths to tell him that he loves him and he could be greater than he is.
Being a father is not easy. What? You were 12 when I met you. Already grown up so much. I just wanted you to be strong and not give up because you lost your dad.
His father figure proves with finality that he is not a metaphorical zombie the moment before he becomes a literal zombie. And that somehow still manages to get laughs. Oh, and hey, laughter in the same thought as a heartbreaking realization. This was not an influence, no! Like, I love this film so much, it makes my heart ache. So let's talk about the writing. In a making-of video, Simon Pegg calls Ed a specter of his apathy. Shaun's apathy. So here's the thing, this was true in real life.
But did you know?
Once upon the increasingly utopian fairy tale known as The Past, Simon and Nick shared a flat together, and Nick Frost openly admits to doing the exact thing he does in the film to Simon in real life. He lounged around on the couch all day and played video games while Simon moaned his words and went to work. I love that this story emotion can actually be backed up with fact. When writing this, I'm sure this came from a real place. It gives Shaun's loyalty to Ed a lot of power and truth. And look at all the value that apathy hath wrought us. Here's a statement that will sound stupid when I say it, but then I will explain it and you'll be like, oh damn, that's a good point and a way to think about the film that I'd never thought of. A real hats tweez swibs ibdi wex a blod tag pa witta tfinto. You have no idea how long I had to stare at that to figure out a pronunciation. A stupid amount of time. So here's the hard truth that sounds soft dumb. This movie is so indie, it is one Belle and Sebastian song away from Catherine Waterston presenting it with an Independent Spirit Award. Boom! A solid joke that punched down on no one but actually gets you Googling all those great things I mentioned that you might have missed. Your move! Comedy. The character dynamics at the level they're executed at rival the best that independent film has to offer because generally indie films have a lot more room for character development than the big budget action stuff. You can really find the depths of characters. Shaun of the Dead has the character weight of Before Sunrise but dropped out of a helicopter with an adrenaline-dosed and understandably ornery Jason Statham. But let's talk about those big budget action flicks. Tell me one thing about Sam Witwicky's parents. Challenge accepted. Ron is the head of the neighborhood watch. Boom. One thing. But Judy, oh God, I'm so sorry. Here's what the info on the Transformers wiki had to say. Judith Judy Witwicky, thanks for clearing that Judy thing up, is Samuel Witwicky's mother and Ronald Witwicky's wife. She is very protective of her dog and her garden. She is strict when it comes to discipline, but still understanding and supportive of the men in her life. She doesn't mind if you masturbate. She likes her garden and her dog and her son and her husband. Get out of town. That's practically too many character development. The character dynamics set up in this film are accomplished with such a deftness that from a narrative economics perspective, it's unreal. Shaun has to grow up, sort his life out, and figure out what he actually wants out of it, kind of ultimately choosing to be a lethargic koala. And Liz is totally aware and has had enough of Shaun's sloth koala meanderings. She knows he's not going to change, and it's time to go. Diana is with David even though she knows it is imperfect and he has feelings for at least one other woman, a fact near everyone is aware of but chooses to politely ignore. David will attack anyone to puff himself up, but has no follow through to an actually disturbing degree. And he knows it too.
You do it.
That's his own mom, dude. Ed is fine just being Ed, but Shaun has trouble telling him that he needs to step up a little. Shaun is held back by Ed, and his loyalty is arguably a hindrance, certainly to his ability to grow. And poor Shaun's mom, Mary, her husband died, and Shaun never made any of that easy on her or her new husband, Philip, someone Shaun never gave a chance, and that is not ambiguous. Mary is clearly over all of Shaun's bullshit. And then, an apocalypse of Z words. This beautiful tapestry of broken people find a hint of salvation in the fact that they get the opportunity to fight for their own salvation. I mean...
2 seconds. Hey, Noodle.
You alright, mate?
Yeah, man, I can't really talk now.
Did you get anything yet?
I've got nothing.
Except Ed, because Ed's whatever about the whole thing. The good things are worth fighting for. The zombie apocalypse fixes them. These people need the apocalypse because it's actually enough of a shock to the system to finally sort their shit out. Shaun stands up to Ed. Shaun finds out what responsibility actually is. Liz finds adventure and even some peace. Diana and David, well, they didn't make it. Neither one really figured out how to stick to a decision, and Ed sort of got what he wanted. No more expectations. A small cast of characters dealing with their troubled interpersonal relationships. But get ready for... Here's the twist. I think Shaun of the Dead is a better action film than Transformers. I want to illustrate the magnitude of the statement I'm attempting to make. This little film, this little tiny film, out Michael Bay's Michael Bay because you actually give a shit. It's not a spoof. All of the actions the characters take in Shaun make perfect sense within the circumstances and say something about our indolent insistence that we always keep things the same, even when it is against our own self-interests and our own detriment to do so. You know, your 20s? I want to illustrate the enormity of this accomplishment. Shaun of the Dead has this fantastic little character study tucked away behind an economy of pithiness and cleverness that I think people writing scripts should take a good, long, hard look at. It does an amazing amount of work with so very, very little room. Shaun of the Dead has, here in my personal opinion, the most effective emotional scene in a zombie film I've ever seen. Think beyond zombies for a moment to realize the movie where people are unable to move their lives forward literally cannot stop moving. It's not a typical zombie film because we aren't really cheering for any of their demises. They're all in a pretty bad spot. Even without the full Cornetto trilogy thing in place, Simon and Edgar still wrote a film, itself a celebration and send-up of what originally was a pretty solid metaphor decrying the boon of modern consumerism in the late 1970s, doing the opposite and celebrating consumerism. And I would not be where I am without this specific film. It taught me that movies can be so clever and have depth and nuance and are worth talking about beyond the surface level bits. Straight up, this show probably wouldn't even exist without the Cornetto trilogy. It probably would have just ended with the Prince of Thieves episode, which is, in hindsight, still pretty good. I took a 2-month break and I really thought about what I wanted to do. The World's End really made me want to make a series that explored the depth and meaning and nuance and beauty of a lot of films. These films mean to me what Cornetto meant to them. Nothing. But then suddenly, everything. Wait. Okay. I maybe buried the lead. So it's the funniest movie ever made. And I talked about all the other stuff. It's the funniest movie ever made. Got it in before the buzzer. Hey, Twitter buddies. I hope so soon. This was a hard episode, and I did it in 2 weeks. I feel good about that. What's up, John? What's up, Alex Podgorski? What's up, Brett Brizet? I'll never do that again. If you like my idiotic antics, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at MikeyFace. I'm all right looking. Not as good as unconscionable riboflavin, which is the single greatest, it's like an unimproving breakfast cereal detective. I am unconscionable riboflavin, of course. Kevin Buffy, Debussy, Chris Rogers, Alan Hinchcliffe. A lot of new names. Please like this video. Please sub to this channel. Please watch all the other Edgar Wright videos. This show has sort of grown up with the Edgar Wright movies, and that's something I'm proud of and I think is really cool and really neat. Not as neat as Tim Shannon and Bednar and Ducky and Drave the Moon Rascal. I almost thought it said Drave the Musical, and I was ready to do an episode about it. Huge, super special, monumental thank you to Edgar Wright. I reached out to him over Twitter, and I threw some really dumb questions his way, and he was really patient with me, and that's really cool. Edgar, I love your stuff. Clearly, I'm sure that it's bordering on psychopath territory. Cool. Let's talk about Time Jumper 319, Edgar Wright's next film. Please. Benedict the Mad, Michelle Ann Grepo, Stephen Hellman, Chris Hianosa, Pat Rothfuss. I'm taking you up on that offer, friend. We're gonna do an episode together. I got an idea. I'll email you soon. Tom Lynch, Thomas McCoy, John McGarity from John McGarity, Chrysler, Chevrolet, Ford, Cars. I can't do car jokes. They're hard. Actually, hey, while I got you here, if you like that Lessons Animation Taught Us episode, you should definitely go check out the playlist on the channel. It is under Deep Dive, another show you absolutely should check out. Go now. We have all kinds of good stuff. Deep Dive is a show I do with my friends where we have to watch generally critically considered bad movies, and we must love them no matter what. And between you and me, that was really hard on Mordecai. Patrick Mahoney, Brad Hunziker, Walrus. That wasn't a note. It's Late at Night. James Maston, Joe Shipley, Mark C. Warner, Axel Lehman, Kevin Hochter, Partridge in a Garrett Lathy Tree, Cyclops Boy, Jason M. Klug, Jacob Koziol, I got it right, unlike last time, Map, and Tim Gordon, the head of the NASCAR Tim Gordon team. See you next time!